A great power was endowed in you by the Eternal before you came to this world, in order that you might distinguish those things difficult to distinguish and unknown to the multitude, and that you might be freed to the one who is yours, in you, the first to save, and who does not need to be saved. Say there, stranger, remember me? I am that stranger who's coming out as a trans P. That passage I read is one single line from the text in the Nag Hammadi Codices titled Allogenes, and that is the third text in the 11th book. It's only 9 pages long in the original booklets, papyrus-bound booklets, and it's quite damaged and fragmentary in several passages. It belongs to the category scholars define as a revelation discourse, and the central topics of the discourse are the endowment of divine intelligence, or nous, and instruction by the mystery light. By the way, you might be wondering, what is the mystery light? Well, it's no longer a mystery. The ancient texts, not only the Nag Hammadi Codices in Coptic, but also Egyptian texts, describe it as the supernal light, and also the light of instruction. Not in his image, I propose to call it the organic light. So what is it? That question goes to the core of the ancient mysteries, and it goes to the vow of silence observed by the initiates in those schools. They vowed never to say openly, publicly, or directly what the mystery light is or what its properties and behavior are. But I broke that vow of silence not in his image, and for the first time ever, I openly disclosed what it is. And it's not anything wild or fantastical or speculative at all. What the initiates of the pagan Sophianic mysteries knew by direct experience is that the earth is a radiant body. The earth radiates light, and that light is white, and it is material or substantial. It is the epiphany of the white goddess. And so, Allogenes is a revelation discourse. It means that it consists of notes that were taken from the experience of direct encounter with this light. Now, those notes may have been written by the hierophants who directly encountered the light, or more likely, they were notes made by students in the presence of hierophants, both men and women, who came out of a ritual practice of trance and described the download to their disciples. And you find an actual reference to this in the text. Now, I started writing the commentaries, my commentaries on the Nag Hammadi Codices, quite a while ago, and I haven't looked back into them for a long time. You'll find them published on Nemeta in the course entitled Gnosis Today. That's course 4. Well, I had occasion after the last upload on the Allogenes to go back and actually look at the text. I haven't looked at it in years. And it occurred to me that I might share it with you, if I could use an old Californian idiom from the 60s. I do so, however, with some reticence. I warn you in advance that this is dense and intense material. I have argued in Not in His Image that the religious scholars and experts in the Coptic language and other languages such as Greek and Egyptian do not really have the capacity to translate these texts. Why? Well, if they haven't themselves experienced what the texts are talking about, how reliable can their translation be? So I've made my own amateurish attempt at translating these documents, or maybe it's not so amateurish. Am I an authoritative scholar on this material? It's up to you to say. I will remind you, however, of the central message of a book that was really popular in the 60s. It was called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn. And in that book, Kuhn said that history shows that the great breakthroughs and shifts of paradigm and theory and experimentation in science always come from outsiders. So with that being said, I will read 7 short paragraphs from my commentary on the Allogenes, which, if you print it out, only comes to about 2 3/4 pages of text. Paragraph 1. Allogenes presents 5 revelations of a female revealer, Yeul, who might be compared to a Tibetan Dakini or tutelary spirit. The revelations are given to someone called Allogenes, the stranger, or literally, born otherwise, generated otherwise. This is a code name for the Gnostic seeker, the neophyte who is ready to receive the lineage transmission of Gnosis. 2. After some fragmentary lines comes a rich flood of mystical language describing the reality, quote, prior to perfection and to every divinity, unquote, and explaining the ultimate one, in capitals, by what it is not. Passages 47 to 49 recall Buddhist teachings on shunyata, the void. Both life and mind, vitality and mentality, come from the originator. Also, the term, that which is, recalls the Tathagata of Buddhism. In passage 50, Allogenes speaks to Mesos, his son, in other words, a lineage student, confessing his reticence to reveal such matters. Quote, I fear that my teaching may have become something beyond what is fitting, end quote. Well, I can certainly relate to that. Then comes the long sentence that I read at the beginning of this recording. My comment on that passage runs like this. Gnosis is the knowledge that saves. Given the inborn endowment of nous, which originates in a cosmic superhuman source, humans do not need to be saved by superhuman intervention. The saving power is nous, our dose of divine intelligence. This dose is a capacity to be developed, not an entity to be worshipped. Nous is not even an intrapsychic divine entity, the self, the higher self, the divine self, or whatever. It is the innate intelligence of the human species. To project that intelligence into an extra-human figure of the Messiah or Savior is totally wrong on Gnostic terms. To look for or expect salvation from without is to deny the inner endowment. Faith in the power of super-earthly intervention to change the human condition impedes our capacity to develop our innate human potential. This is radical Gnostic teaching, a close parallel to Chan, Zen, and Dzogchen. By the way, I would add, as I often do, drumroll please, that everything is material. So nous, what is nous? It's that faculty of divine intelligence in you, which is grounded in common sense, which is encased materially in the genetic code, in the substance of nucleic acid. So nous is nucleic acid. Everything is material. To continue with the commentary. The revelation continues, describing how the hidden one infuses noetic language. And here they use the Coptic word, who knows how to pronounce it, S-H-A-J-E-H, logos, or word, infuses noetic language in the human mind by a downloading of images. The images are alive and operate via inborn capacities as, quote, skill, craft, or partial instinct, end quote. The power for self-correction is also endowed in nous, quote, continually to rectify failures, end quote. The Coptic word nobe, translated routinely as sin, is better interpreted as failure or unrealized potential, rather than failure to follow a moral code dictated by God. Gnostic scholar Karen King, in her book Revelation of the Unknowable God, translates the mysterious line, "He is a word, nobe, from a council. He is a perfect youth." And she elaborates it in this way. This perfect youth is a word deriving from a design, end quote. You get an idea of how obscure and difficult the translation of these materials can be, especially if you haven't had the experience they are describing. So this line again uses shage to mean design or intentional language. Here is the mystery school source of the divine child, or iachos, in the Eleusinian mysteries. The youth is a perpetual capacity for renewal, seeing the world as a child does, in an ever-fresh way, seeing it as a child sees the world before conditioning takes control of the innate intelligence of the child's mind. Clear enough? So where Karen King translates, quote, "This perfect youth is a word deriving from a design," end quote, I translate, "This perpetual youthfulness is an expression of our design," end quote. Moving on, if you can stand it and stay with me at 14 minutes, passage 52 opens with an expression of deification. Look at that word very cautiously and critically. "And I turned inward toward myself alone. I perceived the light that surrounds me and the good that is in me. I became divine." Well, not exactly. I have argued that the experience of the mysteries involves a condition of ego death. And when you experience ego death, you enter a state of consciousness where you are directly and immediately in the presence of the divine. But you yourself, as an entity, as a witness, do not become divine. That is a misleading and misdirecting interpretation. So you could translate this last line, I became divine, perhaps better in this way. I became capable of divination. Divination being that heightened state of perception the initiate experiences in the presence of the white goddess. Moving on to the next paragraph in my commentary. When you comprehend the mystery light, it also comprehends you. Revelation, the stream of higher knowing, comes in silence and serenity. Allogenes here dwells on seeking and withdrawal, standing or holding steady in the light. Here the initiate speaks directly of the discipline required to stand in the torrential currents of pleromic light without quavering, becoming distracted, or lapsing into hallucinations. Quote, and when you become still and standing in that perfect place, you are ultimately still. And according to the patterns you behold, indwelling you, you see the way all things are patterned. End quote. The teacher patiently explains that there is a primary revelation with direct reception to the organic light, and then a reflected revelation. And this is the download. So I use that IT term, download, to describe what the Hierophants in the mysteries experienced by their encounter with the organic light, which they called the light of instruction. And the method, secret method of the mysteries was to take instruction directly from that divine presence, manifesting in that unique and incomparable white, material, substantial radiance. By the way, the organic light does not radiate through space like the light we are all familiar with within the atmosphere of the earth. It does not radiate at all, and it is not flashing or brilliant in any way. It is soft. It has the texture, the actual texture of marshmallow, and it is subtle. It does not come over you externally and overwhelm you with some wave of flashing brilliance. The organic light emerges from matter, and all matter floats in the organic light, in the radiant plasmic body of the earth. Got that? Continuing. I will only read 2 more passages. Let's see. Here we go. There follows another passage in negative theology, describing ultimate reality by what it is not. Gnostic schools still flourished in the Near East around 150 CE, contemporary with Nalanda University in India. The Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, whose dates are disputed, probably lived at this time. His system, the Madhyamaka, is full of such negations. In Allogenes and elsewhere, NHC language exhibits many traits of the middle way dialectic of Buddhism. The high probability of Buddhist Gnostic cross-fertilization is admitted by several Buddhist scholars, such as Snellgrove, but ignored by Christian specialists who only take interest in how Gnostic literature relates to Christianity. Finally, last paragraph of my commentary. Allogenes concludes with a command to conceal the text in a mountain where it will be guarded by benevolent demons. a direct parallel to the concealment of a terma, or hidden treasure, in Nyingma Buddhism. Terma teachings cannot be lost because they are concealed in natural elements as well as in the mind until the appropriate moment for them to be discovered by the appropriate person. Philip K. Dick's Gnostic plasmate, that's his term, plasmate, is a terma-like source of indelible secret instruction. Dick would have certainly found in Allogenes much to compare to his 3-hour download in March of 1974. Conclusion. So in case you don't know about that, Philip K. Dick, perhaps the most famous science fiction writer in the world, explained that he had a download in March of 1974, some kind of mystical experience that you might roughly compare to the download in the ancient Sophianic mysteries. And as a matter of fact, the result of this download was his trilogy called Valis, which I believe stands for Vast, Alive, Living, Intelligent System, Valis. And in those 3 books of the Valis trilogy, he actually cites material from certain Nag Hammadi texts, specifically concerning the Gnostic teaching that the creator God of Judeo-Christianity and Islam is a demented alien freak. And I would point out, as I have so often done, that popular gurus and expert scholars in Gnosticism misrepresent what the Gnostics taught by claiming that the Gnostics believed that this satanic alien freak demiurge entity actually created the material world. But that is not what they said. Look at the source materials. Why isn't anyone else looking at the source materials like I do? The source materials say that the Eldabaoth, aka Jehovah, Allah, whatever you want to call him, is a pretender. He pretends to be the creator of the material world. He is delusional. He believes himself to be the creator of the material world, but he is not. And Gnostic writings, which I have developed at length, show that the initiates of the Sophianic mysteries knew that the material world of nature is an epiphany of the white goddess. It is not a product. It is not a prison matrix or prison planet created by a satanic deity. How many times do I have to explain this before somebody gets it? So there you go. I took this occasion to, at the risk of totally boring you stupid, to give you a glimpse of what these Gnostic Coptic materials are like. And I haven't delved back into them myself for a long time. It's many years since I wrote these commentaries. They're not complete yet. I selected out of the 52 documents in the Nag Hammadi Codices, I think I selected 32. And so far I've done commentaries on, 20 of them or something like that. It's a big job. It's a very difficult job. And yet it's satisfying to me. And so I'm happy and content and grateful to be able to describe to you what it is to delve into these obscure texts from the ancient mysteries. Enough said. And I'll be seeing you around the corner with a little more chit-chat about the Allogenes and the mutation of A11. Meanwhile, remember to pull up your pajamas But don't pull them up too tight, and don't bind them in a knot in your crotch, because sexual discomfort can seriously impair your capacity for clear thinking.